Hello, welcome back to the Signal Over Noise podcast. Yeah, this I think is our third episode today, maybe second. I'm losing track.
They're pretty high numbers, 2 and 3. I wouldn't be too hard on yourself.
It's about how many views we've had, isn't it? Today, though, we are going to talk about something trending, quite on topic, and front of mind for a lot of people, really. That's how to navigate the AI revolution and win. So anyway, there's a Sam involved with AI who's got a lot more credibility than I do, and that's the CEO of OpenAI, Mr. Sam Altman. So check this out. He came up with a pretty strong statement quite recently. He said, in my little group chat with my tech CEO friends, there's a betting pool for the first year that there will be a one-person billion-dollar company, which would have been unimaginable without AI, and now will happen. It's not a question of whether it will happen. It's a question of when it will happen. That's the key point there. So I think it's interesting just to reflect for a second and think about the different eras of technology that we've had that have led to this point. So people talk about the dot-com boom. That was in the 1990s. So that was when the internet first came out. And it allowed you to have access to all of the world's knowledge and effectively learn any skill. You know, it's the era where Google and Wikipedia started to kind of document the world and was free and available to everybody, at least in the Western world. Then in the early noughties, you have the advent of the smartphone. This wasn't the iPhone initially. It was things like BlackBerries and little Palm Pilots, which would allow you to have a supercomputer available to you 24/7, 360 days a year, with apps that could effectively solve any problem, at least any problem you could think of. Then in the early 2010s, got the advent of social media, or at least the popularization of social media. I think social media came in a little earlier than that, but really Facebook, which was the really first globally connected social media platform, even more so than things like MySpace, gave you the ability to connect to anybody around the world, to build a loyal tribe of friends, followers, and fans who care about you and who you care about. Okay, so that's the 2010s. Fast forward to the 20s, and there's a new kid on the block. It's artificial intelligence, which is honestly quite a big disruptor. I feel like things like crypto and NFTs, etc., were kind of just like a thing, but they're nowhere near the amount of pull power and actual function that AI has. This gives you the ability to create super intelligent agents that could power a one-person business or augment or really inject some extra capacity. So I'm going to be real with you for a second here. Sam Altman is clearly a little biased. A $1 billion one-man business is a great marketing line for a man who's selling the juice that could get you there. What he leaves out from that statement is that to have a 1 billion one-man business, it would have to be a 1 in a million business idea that's executed absolutely perfectly. I say that though, but there's nothing wrong with a 1 million, 10 million, 50 million, or a $100 million business, is there? So let's start there instead. What opportunities does AI open up? So let's talk very quickly about how AI has disrupted the economy from a macro level. And then let's talk about practical ways that you can take steps to build your $1 million business, either solo or with friends. A few of you might have heard of Naval Ravikant. He talked about, this was before AI actually had come onto the scene. He talked quite a lot about 3 forms of leverage. You have 1, labor, 2, capital, and 3, code. How AI disrupts these 3 levers. Labor. Okay, in the old world, as we know, to scale, you had to hire people to service your customers. So if you had 10 customers, you have to hire a salesperson. If you have 100, you need to hire a team. If you have 1,000 customers, you need a whole department of salespeople. Okay. In this new AI world, you can now effectively hire AI agents that will work 24/7, never get tired, never take sick days, cost pennies compared to actual employees, and they're all PhD level smart, even on the free version of ChatGPT. That's the quite incredible thing. So some specific disruptions. We talk about customer service. In some companies, AI is already handling 80% of inquiries. think just 4 or 5 years ago, AI wasn't even on the scene. There's something called Intercom. That's a company that provides these services. They have a chatbot called Finn. It's worth looking at. It effectively hooks up to all of their inbound customer support queries, and it's also hooked up to the system that delivers the products or services that you supply. Effectively, it's doing the job of that customer support assistant. Next is content creation. So one man or one person can now output levels that a much bigger team would be able to. So let's take this particular podcast, for example. The other day, I was lying in bed and it kind of dawned on me, hey, how could we grow? How could we get some actual people to come and listen to us and watch us talk? And I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if we run our transcripts through AI to effectively say, hey, ChatGPT, tell me which segments of this transcript had the highest viral potential, and then clip it up and take those and put them into short form videos. Now, lo and behold, I Googled this idea and I found 2 services that already provide it as a specific service. Like straight away, if I was to do that manually, listen to and try and predict which parts would be viral, firstly, it would take me a long time. Secondly, I might just completely miss the trick. I might be biased, which I clearly am. I have my own preferences as to what I think is interesting or could be viral, as opposed to a non-biased perspective. But yeah, so these things are already out there and available. It's not just ChatGPT, Claude. Oh, what's the other one? A Copilot. So yeah, sales outreach. So AI can now personalize and send thousands of emails. Like my personal favorite outreach tool that AI has, or method that AI has opened up, is the ability to create highly personalized cold emails. So as opposed to your standard, I'm just going to do a mail merge and swap my name with Owen's name with person X's name and just give them the rest of the content exactly the same, you could actually tailor that to that person. Did they reach out to you on LinkedIn? Can we look at their profile? Can we make small talk beforehand? All using AI. And the final one as well is research and analysis. So what did take analysts days can now take minutes. Honestly, for these last 2, I'd really encourage people to take a look at Lindy AI and gumloop.com, and we'll come back to those later in this. Effectively, I want you to look at the templates for inspiration. They are workflows and AI agents that can automate and augment, which I think is possibly a bit of a wanky word, but improve. Effectively, what it means is they can automate and improve the work that you're already doing, so you do it more efficiently and with higher quality. That's whether it's on your day job or in your own time on your side projects. Okay, so the next is code leverage. Now, this one probably goes without saying. In the old world, you needed to learn how to code or hire expensive developers to build software. Now, in the AI world, you can describe what you want in natural language and AI builds it. In the same way you taught ChatGPT, you can generate working MVP products. So, as I say, that's one disruption, is being able to just speak in plain English or whatever language you choose, and it will output something. You can use services like V0, Lovable, and Bolt, of which I've used the first 2, and are really, really impressive. The next is debugging and optimization. So if it's not working, just ask AI to review your code and it will fix it for you. In most parts, not always. It does struggle sometimes, particularly with more complex things. Also, prototyping speed. I think the important thing to note here is, for anyone who's not technical, the reality of this right now is that it's amazing for creating MVPs, which is a minimal viable product for anyone who doesn't know, and prototypes of services. So what that can do, though, is it leads on really nicely to the third form of leverage, which is capital. So this game has changed entirely. So in the past, you'd have to either raise or spend your savings to put down, 500K to 2 million just to hire a team and build a product, which may or may not work. Now, though, you can bootstrap that with as little as $0 using ChatGPT, or in reality, you probably want to invest a little bit and, put down $20, $50 a month. But the important thing here is you can prove whether your service has got any traction or whether your product, anyone would actually use it. This is the incredible things. Rather than put down $500,000 to build a product and see if it works, you can now build it for as little as tens of dollars and then test it with the market. Do you get any good feedback? Do people hate it? Do people love it? How could you improve it? Which allows you to retain much more ownership of your product. It means you can go to market far quicker, even if the quality of the code isn't always, sorry, from a technical perspective, maybe the quality of the code isn't always as good as a human developer. It is a heck of a lot faster. And of course, available in your spare time after work or whenever you're trying to do it. Now, if you have traction, the really important thing to consider here is if you do then want to go ahead and raise capital to build a team, whether that's salespeople or developers, then you're coming to that from a position of real strength. You've proven it's not just some like crazy idea that you've got a half-built MVP for that you've spent $500,000 on. Actually, you can say, right, Mr. Investor, I have got X amount of customers who are already paying me for this service. So it's quite incredible how AI has kind of disrupted those three levers. Final time, labor, code, and capital. All right. So how the heck can you use this information? Before I do that.
Yeah, super interesting. I guess a couple of questions there for me. When you're vibe coding or using natural language to code a e-commerce product into existence, it sounds like what you're hinting at with the minimum viable product is that you would then either code it yourself or with a team of experts, or you would just keep going with the MVP if it's working. I wanted to ask, with these apps, can you add in your own code, insert extra bits?
Yeah, so these are actually really impressive, particularly V0. So I would try and encourage people, if they are interested in vibe coding, to start there. Effectively, it's owned by another company called Vercel, who is known to be a very good and reliable hosting website. And that's hosting from like a domain, but also they provide the compute power, the cloud compute power, which means effectively the code is running in the cloud rather than on your local machine. So any person around the world can run that and it's not going to affect your local machine. Kind of important. Now, that is a really good place to start. You can actually export the code as well. So the code base, you own that, which is a big thing. It's not in like some black box. If you think about services like Wix and Squarespace, these drag and drop website builders, they have a lot of vendor lock, which is effectively ties you into their ecosystem because they own the code, which in the AI world, when things are moving so quickly, it's problematic because suddenly, like, for example, V0 got a load of bad press because they upped their prices significantly. I think they actually backed down from that in the end. So I would say that is a really good reason for using V0 because actually, frankly, I could be like, oh, actually, I'm really frustrated with these price changes. I'm going to go over to Lovable or Bolt or one of these other services. So yeah. Good place to start anyway, V0 for sure.
The other thing I wanted to ask is,
the right word.
It sounds like, like you're saying, the barrier to entry in terms of capital expenditure is approximately zero. You can use the freely available LLMs, ChatGPT, Grok, whatever, to start, and then labor, it's massively multiplying your productivity. So labor is not zero, but it's very cheap. You can vibe code an app or an idea if you know the prompts pretty fast, and just otherworldly fast compared to what it would take to have built a product or an app or a website previously. An example for that would be my brother-in-law has spent the last 3 or 4 years building a video game, 40, 50, 60 hours a week in his own free time. 3 or 4 years ago, these products, Lovable, that sort of stuff, didn't exist and didn't have the capacity and capabilities it has now. He could probably build what he's built painstakingly at whatever it is, 3,000 hours per year for 3 or 4 years, so 10, 12,000 hours. He could probably build that in, I don't know, a series of afternoons. But then my last one is about, coding as the third lever of leverage. What coding capability do you need to bring to the table? What's the minimum entry requirement?
Okay, so to your first point, knowing the right prompt. I've noticed that one of the biggest unlocks for me was actually asking ChatGPT or Claude, as the service I use, to build those prompts for you. So you say, hi, ChatGPT or Claude, I want to build this app. Please generate a good prompt that I can put into V0, Lovable, Bolt. It will know the structures of how those LLMs work. But I think a really key thing to do at the end of you sharing like exactly what you want to build is say, hey, please also ask me clarifying questions before you generate that prompt for me. Because like I think the reality is a lot of us, including myself, are not technical. I'm not a developer. So, yeah, I think that's a really important like unlock for me was doing that and then putting that in there. You do have to be conscious that doesn't go on for too long. You have to make sure it's concise. So just really also emphasize that with ChatGPT to be concise, because there's something called a context window, which is effectively is like how long the LLM's memory works for, and it will cut off at a certain point. So you just need to keep it in short, sharp bits. So just imagine you've got a big idea of an app. You need to chunk it into small pieces. I want a login page. I want I don't know, an account management page. I want a front page, a home page, etc. To your brother-in-law building his app, just a small word to that. Yeah, I've seen some pretty cool games being built. They've been vibe coded. I think if you just go onto Twitter or X, you'll be able to search through there and see some pretty gnarly stuff that people have built. Probably Reddit would be good for that too. And your final point, which now has escaped me, vibe coding.
It's basically, you've described that there's a near zero barrier to entry in terms of a capital, because you don't even need to have a good computer. It can run off of their computing power. You just need internet access, essentially. And the approximate barrier to entry in terms of labor is just lower than it's ever been. It's still, there will be some hours spent, and there will be a multiplier of multiplying your labor by your capital available to you, and by the coding, and by the strength of the idea as a marketable product. So the question is, in terms of the coding aspect, how much do you need? What's the barrier to entry there?
Okay, yeah, so it's pretty low. I work in my day job. I work in a tech company who builds tech, but I don't work with technical people. Well, sorry, I do work with technical people, but what we've been doing though, as part of our like sales process, is building miniature MVP versions of products, going to a client and then saying, "Would you like something like this?" And it takes a few hours. Now, to get to that point, you do have to practice, but you don't have to be able to code. I would highly advise talking through your idea with one of these LLMs beforehand. I'm emphasizing LLMs as opposed to your technical friend, just because this is going to be much quicker and you can iterate through things way faster. But if you ask it to break things down, so you can break things down into small chunks. You could even, you've used the phrase, build me a set of user stories that I can run through for V0 to create an app, then you're probably onto a winner there. But yeah, that follows the structure of I, as a such and such, I want such and such so that I can achieve such and such. Now, effectively, that frames it so that the LLM will know what it is you're trying to achieve. Frankly, ChatGPT can put that into a prompt for you, but it is a case of just going to ChatGPT saying, "Hey, I have this idea for this app, for this website. Please tell me how I can break it down. I want to build it in V0 and walk me through the process." I think that would be easier because it'll be different for everyone. But yeah, there's no barrier to entry there though at all. Just can you type and speak English or your chosen language? Okay, so I press ahead with the framework for opportunities. So basically, I had a little think about different ways that you might be able to come up with ideas and opportunities that AI has created. So the first test I've got is the 10 times better test. So is there a product or service that AI could make 10 times cheaper, faster, or better? There's an example here of headshots. So this used to cost $200, $500 for a set of headshots and take hours. You'd have to go drive somewhere, get it done. And now instead, you can use AI headshot apps just to take a photo, a selfie, and it'll be delivered in minutes, edited, and ready to go. So that is clearly 10 times better. $200 to $500 per headshot compared to a mere $29 or $30. Companies like ProPhoto are now doing millions of dollars of revenue doing this kind of service. The next test is what is newly possible. So what can AI do that wasn't possible at any price before? So we've got examples of technologies like real-time voice translation. Notice that's on my phone. Imagine if you could just speak to someone in a totally different language, but in real time. It's quite incredible. AI companions. So this is a little bit Black Mirror-y, but, people are starting to have, whether this is a good or a bad thing, I think we'll let my Dr. Co-conspirator here be the judge of that. But yeah, people are forming real relationships with personalized tutors and adapting to your learning style. So this one I feel like is so incredible. And I think it's, I haven't really ever come up with an actual product to do this, but I often think about how kids learn, okay? I work for the Department for Education, by the way. So think about like individualized lessons. Imagine if AI could generate and learn how the kid learns, like what the learning style is, adapt and also know what the kid knows and adapt their learning so that it's based on their specific needs and where they currently are, as opposed to the average of that classroom, or even in fact probably the lowest denomination in that classroom. Sorry, horrible phrase to describe a kid that's kind of lagging behind. So thinking about opportunities that AI has opened up that weren't possible at any price, you could ask the question, what would I build if I had 100 employees for free? It's a really cool example of something that kind of went viral. So there's something called Cal AI, which is an app that allows you to take photos of your food, which uses AI to then predict how many calories are in your food, tracks your daily calorie intake. And now this was built by an 18-year-old and it is making $1.4 million a month. So yeah, there's an example for you of perhaps a product which in reality a small team worked on. It was him and his friends. Okay, so number 3, test 3, the unbundling services play. So what expensive professional services can be partially automated as opposed to the whole thing? So think about like a workflow of a lawyer. There's a service called Harvey, which would allow you to review contracts. There's far more to lawyers today than just reviewing contracts, but what if you could abstract one part of that service and automate it? Imagine how valuable that would be, particularly in the legal field. Market research, or competitive analysis. Imagine if we could, say, put in a competitor's name, a competitor company, or even a competitor creator. Not that we have competition, we have a lot of competition. And you could learn as much as you can do about that person just by scraping, analyzing, and synthesizing what they're up to. I'm just going to do another call out here. I think I'm going to do 3 call outs for this throughout this session, but I think it's like the biggest piece of homework I could advise people to do after this podcast. What I'd really encourage people to do, and we're not by any means sponsored by either of these 2 platforms, is to head over to lindy.ai or gumloop.com and check out their templates. For me personally, they gave me a bunch of inspiration about different things that AI workflows and AI agents could do, which has given me loads of ideas for things you could unpackage, okay? So things like research, say I just went into competitive analysis a second ago, that's one thing. Lead gen. So I've had a really interesting one, which is like, say if you were on LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever, imagine if you were like talking about a new service or a new topic or whatever that you wanted to go deeper into. So say you're launching a new product, you talk about it on Instagram, somebody comments on your Instagram post or reel about that new product. You want to automate something that goes back to them via Instagram Messenger that says, oh, hey, I saw you liked or commented on my post here, just to let you know there's a sign-up list or for pre-order or whatever. That's the kind of thing you could automate with these workflows as a way to like generate leads and to warm your leads. Again, competitive analysis as well. All different types of things. Now, the really cool and interesting thing you could do here is you could actually use these different workflows in your day job if you wanted to. It'd be a great place for you to practice and perfect your skills using these technologies. Probably impress your current employer. In reality, you're going to get paid to learn them, and you could just improve the way that you and your team work using these workflows.
Couple of questions there. Well, one question and a bit of an idea. Question, what is warming a lead?
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I need to be careful with the way I talk. Warming a lead. So there's a phrase in sales talk. Not that I've ever worked in sales, I've worked with salespeople. It's kind of effectively that a person will only buy from you at the 7th point of contact. Like initially, you might see a blog or something, and it'll say you just need to enter your email address, and you'll get this blog for free, or you get this particular thing, digital product for free. So that would be you coming in as quite a cold lead. And effectively, the way that most people would go through the 7 points of contact would be through an email chain. It would be like, okay, I'll send you the blog. That's possibly point of contact 1 or 2. And then it will continue to drip feed you things through until you get to the 7th point, which is when, in theory, you should have built up enough trust with that particular person to actually make the sale, whatever that sale is. So that's what warming the lead is. It's just basically building trust. So yeah, and you can automate a lot of that. So yeah, and then my final test would be the picks and shovel strategy. So yeah, effectively, instead of being a gold miner, why don't you sell picks and shovels and build tools that will help other people use AI? Okay, so there are simpler things like prompt marketplaces. I mean, what you could do is you could learn how to prompt well, and then create like marketplaces to help people for inspiration. I've been going on about these workflow template libraries. Maybe there's a prompting equivalent, which is probably a little bit easier to start there. Then there's also courses. One of the things I've thought about in the past would be, wouldn't it be a useful course to create for people who are maybe getting a little bit left behind? Like maybe job seekers, or maybe graduates who need to prove they know how to use AI, or boomers even who, sorry to generalize, but maybe have less experience using AI and need to get upskilled to be able to put that on their CV. All different things you can do that don't necessarily involve you getting too close to the AI itself, or particularly being a software developer or being a technical person. I've got two really cool real world examples of companies that have used AI in some way, shape, or form and built and like kind of exploded, to be honest. Real world examples. Base 44 is a similar product to V0 and Lovable. Haven't actually used it myself, but it must work quite nicely because 6 months after they launched, they were built by a team of 8 people, and they actually were acquired for $44 million. So that's just 6 months after launching. The next one is Perplexity. So this one is kind of crazy. So this one's been around for a little longer than that. It was started by 4 co-founders, but it's now valued at $9 billion. And like their particular insight, we're talking about frameworks and ways of approaching this, is they were one of the first LLMs to hook up the large language model, which is whatever sits behind ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot, etc., with the internet. So it meant you could query the internet quickly. And honestly, I couldn't speak more highly of their product. It's a really, really good tool for doing research and trying to just learn things as well. So those are my 2 standout ones anyway. Okay, so we have action items, all right? So I don't know if I even told you this though, but we're going to set some homework, but I'll set homework after you've told me to not set homework.
I'm not gonna jump in and ask for no homework until I've heard what the homework is. Thank you. I just wanted to go back onto that point about the selling pickaxes. I love that analogy of you've got the gold rush. Everyone's rushing past you on the road. Everyone's trying to go and find their nugget of gold. You can either join them in the frenzy, or you can watch as they go by, and you can offer them something of use to them that they're going to pay pretty handsomely for, because their eyes, ears, everything is set on the gold. So pickaxes. I guess AI and utilizing AI can be daunting for those that have never done it, just as anything new that you've never done before is daunting. And entrepreneurship can be daunting for those that are used to a steady eddy, reliable sort of 9 to 5 job where somebody tells you the structure, somebody pays you a certain wage. I was thinking other pickaxes for that might be, if you have money, if you have capital, you can invest in the bigger structural pickaxes of, can you invest in a technology company that owns the computing power? Could you buy stocks in an electricity provider or someone that provides the internet infrastructure that it all runs on?
Yeah, quite. I think you see that Rolls-Royce, they had such a big deal between, and this is Rolls-Royce, not the cars, but the engine manufacturer. There's 2 separate companies with the same name. They've been like, I think they're the highest value they've ever been because they've been investing in miniature nuclear reactors. And the idea being that there's so much demand for energy now because of LLMs that we just have to roll out more energy production quickly, and nuclear is possibly the only one that's the most reliable and clean at the same time. So yeah, that's so true. Also, not advocating for them because I've never looked up any other numbers apart from the fact that they're doing very well.
And founding factor, which is their stock price almost went to zero in the pandemic when no airplanes were flying, because their big business is airplane engines, and that's boomed. That's gone up a lot as well. But yeah, super interesting. I think that's an investment opportunity. Also, you've listed a load of companies that have done incredible things fast. Some of them might be available to invest in.
Yeah, quite 100%. Or work at, to be honest, if you wanted to learn, if you want to get some experience learning AI, these would probably be the best types of companies, the AI native companies who've grown up in this world of AI, as opposed to working for, Accenture, Salesforce, whoever, who were born in the internet era. Okay, so I'm going to run through a couple of these kind of pieces of homework. All right, so first one is what if. Okay, so this is effectively a brainstorming exercise, and what I want you to do is just think, if I had 10 employees, what business would I build? Okay, no filter. Just think, if I had the employees, what would I do? Okay, just brainstorm and just come up with them, and then when you've finished, review them and say, okay, cool. These 2 or 3 look interesting. Could I, instead of having no employees, could I use Lindy AI or Gumloop or ChatGPT or anybody or any of the other services? It's frankly not just those 2 services. The story I used earlier about like the clipping up of the podcast, it just proves that so many things are possible now. You can just literally string things together nowadays, using things like Lindy AI or Gumloop, plus things like Zapier, who are a little bit more established. So that's one. Second one, like I say, with those templates, this is actually is the one for Lindy AI and Gumloop, is to say, right, you've got these different workflows. Could you use say, for example, you could become like the competitive analysis company. You could become the lead warming company. There'll be at least 10 different AI agents that do lead warming. Could you be the lead warming company for all these various marketing agencies out there, just simply by unpackaging their services and providing them for free using these other platforms? And the third piece of homework, and by the way, take your pick, don't do them all. If you already have an idea, that's friggin' awesome. Like, as long as it's a fully digital product, you'll be able to build, or at least build an MVP using V0 or Lovable, possibly Base 44, although I can't vouch for it, just to use natural language. I've been through already earlier in the podcast, like the workflow I would use to do so. If you then, once you build it, of course, the next challenge is getting customers. So just post it to Product Hunt and see what people think of it. They'll give you their honest feedback and possibly become a customer. Okay. So, final kind of roundup just for this section. Okay. Sam Altman, he's been selling the vision of $1 billion one-person company. That's going to be pretty challenging, right? But what's actually achievable is a profitable $500,000 to $2 million a year business. It gives you freedom, allows you to build with a small team or on your own. You can do it with your friends or do it on your own. And really, frankly, it moves the kind of like the growth trajectory from 5 to 10 years all the way down to 12 to 24 months. You can even start earning revenue much sooner than 12 months as soon as your product is ready to share with customers. The AI revolution isn't about replacing your ambition with hype. It's about giving you leverage that used to only be available to people with millions of funding. The reality is the window is now. 5 years from now, everyone will have figured this out. The people winning today are those who started experimenting yesterday. So I've given you your homework. Pick at least one action item and do it today. That is, check out Lindy or Gumloop, learn how those services work, those templates. Try to see if there's something you can maybe build into a business. It'll be a useful skill either way. Try the what if exercise. What if I had 10 employees? What business would I start? Or if you already have an idea, go ahead and try out V0 or Lovable to build that idea. Thank you very much.
Sweet. Lots of food for thought, loads of really practical information. I love that those call outs just tell you exactly what to do. I think it can be easy to get to the end of a podcast and say, right, great, that's fascinating. That's blown my mind. It's stretched it in all these different directions. I'm ready to go. What do I do? Where do I start? I think you've answered that for us, or provided the answer to get started. That's what you need, isn't it? You need to just place that first step, and then steps 2, 3, 4 should follow, hopefully, once you've worked out where you're going with it. And so that's the product, basically, isn't it? You should know where you're going if you've had those ideas, or if you're going to go ahead and use one of these AI platforms to workshop your ideas and create them and sharpen your lens and figure out which one's really good for you. So that's really interesting. And we're going to move on to the next stage then, if you're done that, of the show. So we're talking about structure and the importance of that in podcasting, and how we're going to sort of trial this structure of, alternating who's doing the main segment. Then we're going to come in with a stat of the week, we're going to wrap it up with a toast to the fire segment where one of us grills the other on what we've been doing in the last week in terms of progressing towards meaningful goals. Stat of the week will come from me this week, and it's from the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs Report 2023. The stat or the number is 14 million. The World Economic Forum Future of Jobs Report predicts 83 million jobs will be displaced by automation or AI globally by 2027. So that's over a 4-year time period from when the Future of Jobs Report was published. So that's not, pie in the sky, hyperbolic discounting some imaginary future. That's now. But 69 million new jobs will be created, yielding a net loss of that 14 million jobs. So stat of the week, it's not fun, it's not nice to hear about, but it's important to know about. I think that often other people get it in the neck. Immigrants, for example, capitalists, whatever, and there may be nuggets of truth in any particular argument, that having increased competition does diminish the individual bargaining power of one worker, but AI is doing it, and it's doing it now and fast.
Yeah, it's just another reflection, I guess, really, is like we have an aging population in the UK and most of the Western world. There's going to need to be that group of people or thing to backfill when effectively the boomer generation retires. Like if you look at a population tree, like there isn't that same size of people coming through the next generation. It's far fewer people. Like perhaps this is a positive thing, otherwise economies will struggle. Who's going to be paying the pension to these people? There's lots of challenges there to unpick, frankly. The other one I always like to think of is, and you're probably a little bit closer to your heart as well, is the NHS. They've had like record high numbers of job opportunities for years and years. Now, imagine if we can make, sounds horrible, but make it more productive using AI, or perhaps automate away some of the roles so that they can focus, they have more capital to spend on the other roles. So yeah, I think there's lots of opportunities there. However, it is pretty daunting as the individual. Let's forget about this from a macro level. As an individual, it's pretty daunting if you think you might be in a role that could be automated. Later on, I touched on 80% of, in some companies, 80% of customer service, customer support has been automated away. Now, I would be pretty anxious if I was working in customer support service.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I've not dressed like a call center employee for today's podcast. Yeah. Those of us just listening and those listening and not watching won't realize why that's funny, but I promise you it is. Yeah, so I think that, yes, what you've pitched is really exciting in the founder-creator space can be a little bit anxiety-provoking, but not without cause and reason in the employment space. But there are employment opportunities out there that we'll get into in another episode, and the fields you've spoken about, can you replace work with AI? If you can't easily, or if you can't make it 10 times better and 10 times cheaper in your current work, that's great. That's really reassuring. And we've spoken about augments. Is it that your job will be augmented very obviously and very practically and helpfully in parts, but other parts can't be replaced? And then I think the third thing is what's just sort of out of the realm of AI's capabilities now, and what are those fields that one can move into and learn new skills in that AI won't be able to do or isn't able to do at the moment. And I think a few ideas on that would be tasks that are manual, require dexterity, and people value having a human do them, and that proof of humanity in doing them. So caring and nursing and other healthcare sort of affiliated roles. Tasks where the proof of the human's fallibility is valued. So I think, AI is already much better at chess and Go, which is a sort of East Asian 4D chess, than humans are, yet we still watch humans play, or some people still watch humans play, and there's a market for it. So performing arts and sports would be in that category. They're not potentially high earners unless you're at the really top end. And there are other fields as well, and we'll get into that in another episode, perhaps. But yeah, though it is daunting, I think the message is many of us will have to reskill. We've never had a better training dojo for learning new skills. It's never been faster or cheaper to become an expert in something. The universities maintain a monopoly on perceived expertise in giving out expensive certificates, but they don't have that monopoly of information they used to have when all of the knowable information in the world was hoarded in their libraries. You've got more in your pocket than they have, or at least the same amount.
Final bit as well is you could even use it to get ahead. There are many ways that you could improve your current performance using AI at your day job. Now, imagine if you were the spearhead for implementing AI and improving everyone in your team's day job. Imagine how that's going to look for you with your current employers. So yeah, it's daunting. You might very well be pulling up the drawbridge behind you, I guess, if you do, to some effect, if you do that, but you can get ahead. Also, maybe that's not the nicest message to share with everyone. But anyway, shall we talk about...
Yeah, you're going to grill me, I reckon, this time.
Yeah, I reckon so. Okay, cool. All right. So, Owen, tell me what you've been working on this week.
I've been working on very little, but I have been putting some time, effort, and energy into this podcast specifically, and a little bit my YouTube channel, which has a, I used to think quite a paltry looking 1,100 subscribers, but from our vantage point, that's pretty darn impressive looking up from where we are, rather than looking down from various competitors. So I've been looking at how to improve podcasting skills, essentially, sharpen the knife. So yeah, we spoke before we went on air about reading difficult, challenging poetry to work on enunciation. We also spoke about hydration and avoiding covering our vocal folds in milk before going live. So that's what I've been working on, really. And then I've been delving into easy, fast podcast edits.
Nice. Easy, fast podcast edits. That wasn't what I was talking about earlier, was it? The short.
No, I guess I'm talking about editing the long form videos and how to put that in a workflow that's really speedy, but at an acceptable quality and price point for us.
Awesome. Okay, so then I think you've done a good job of summing that up, eh? Yeah, I guess we'll see if it works. This has got a long tail on it, so, and hopefully many, many touch points with at least one or two people who have been listening to us. Do you want to round us out? Or shall I do that?
You've been far too light and easy on me. I am going to hold your toes much closer to the fire next week. If you have been listening, thank you for joining us on this episode. See you same time, same place next week.
See you guys.
Nice.